It is so good to see all of you. My goodness, my goodness. So welcome to the last Love Academy 101 of 2015. We all are here making history. And there's also women here from outside the state who flew in, made it happen. Right. Yes. Women came in from California, from Oregon, and from Tennessee to be here. So they made it happen. So those that are local, you don't have anything that you had to deal with compared to airfare, hotel, rental car for some people. So as Stephanie said, you all, I hope, are in for a treat today. But it really depends on to the degree to which you receive, which is a feminine quality anyway that we want to work on getting really, really good at. And just to give you a little bit of background in a moment on how this came about, I just first want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be going through today. Because you're going to hear some new terminology. I call them Debrina-isms, words that I've made up to describe things that I didn't already see existing out there. And I didn't want to be limited by existing words. So there will be Debrina-isms that I will introduce today during the course. There will be exercises that we'll be doing, a little bit of partner work you'll be doing, time for lots of questions, which is the whole point. And I hope today also challenges you and even steps on your toes, because it's about a new paradigm. It's not about the same old, same old. It's not about what you've been brought up in, what you've been raised in, and what you've been acculturated in as a female growing up in the United States. So on purpose, I want you to hear some things that go, whoa, that's new, that's different, hadn't thought about that before, and really literally blow your mind in terms of the mindset you were in. So with that, I just want to share a little bit about how this came about, because as Stephanie said, this really is the result of obedience and a lot of butt-kicking self-work. And for those of you who may have my book, The Love Lies, I call it the divine self-work, because it's based in truth. It's based in being able to look in the mirror and tell the truth about the wart that may be on your cheek or that you've been trying to put the cover up on, and say we got to deal with this wart versus trying to cover it up. It's about a lot of soul searching. It's about a lot of growing up. So you will hear me talk about being in your girl versus being in your woman. And if you are acculturated in the U.S., and the relationships information and the approaches and what we see and watch and hear has us in our girl. An immature place emotionally, an immature place spiritually, and with our communication really not working all that well when it comes to relationship with men. And I want to bring us out of girl into woman. Because when you're in your woman, that's where deep satisfaction and fulfillment can become a reality versus a fantasy or a concept in the movie screen or a pipe dream. And that's one of the reasons we often are yearning and seeking for deep satisfaction and fulfillment, and it keeps eluding us because it's very hard to get there when you're in your girl. But when you're in your woman, it now becomes a possibility. So the things that I'm sharing with you today, I did not grab out of the sky. I didn't come up with some theories and say, okay, let me introduce these to the women and hope that they apply and are true. They come out of my lived experience. And I can take you back, back to 2003 is the beginning of when my marriage started to head towards a crash, burn, and almost a divorce. And after 4 years of my husband and I doing the things that you do when you're trying to save your marriage, you go to a counselor and another counselor and a pastor and another pastor, and you have people praying for you, and then you go to a therapist. So we put in a pretty good yeoman's effort. We didn't just try one counselor, we tried multiple. And after 4 years of trying to save our marriage, we had made some steps forward, but just as many backward. So the net effect wasn't too much forward progress. I was tired, I was worn out, my husband was tired, he was worn out. And so we said, well, we guess that our covenant is up. Never imagined when we had this big wedding down at the Design Center, 500 guests. We were in Glamour magazine, all these people that flew in, this big African-themed gorgeous wedding. Never thought that I would be thinking about and on the brink of signing a divorce decree. And so one of those mornings at the end of those 4 years, when I was in my prayer closet, boo-hooing, snot, that ugly cry. And I said, God, I've done all I know how to do. I don't have any more tools in the toolbox. And out of frustration, I said, what do you want me to do? Now, that was a question. Little did I know. I just thought it was more of an exclamation. What do you want me to do? It was a question mark on the end. And that still small voice said to me, thank you for finally asking. I didn't realize all those 4 years of doing all these things that other people said and I knew to do and I'd been told and the book said to do and what I thought I should do. I never asked, what do you want me to do? And so at that moment, God said to me, I have a process for you. And if you follow it and do not deviate, not only are you going to save your marriage, you're going to transform it. And it is going to be better than ever. And in my book, I call that a juicy marriage. Juicy marriage, juicy love relationships. That's what I'm interested in, not just good, not just okay. And I received an invitation to enter into this process, not knowing what lied ahead, no details given to me. And I said, well, shoot, I've done everything I know how to do and other people know how to do. I said, well, I don't know. I still was hesitant. And then God said to me, daughter, if you say yes and walk this process out, you are going to impact a lot of other people as well. A lot of other people. How many is a lot? Didn't quantify it for me. But I figured that if I had been told in advance that a lot of people would benefit from my obedience, and I still said no, that would be selfish. So I said, well, okay. And over the next 90 days, I received a series of what I call spiritual downloads that really came to me, not from me. I did not source them. I was the scribe for them. And I received a set of what turned out to be the faulty, funky, flawed programming that we have received as women growing up in this culture around relationships, a set of 25, what went on to be called love lies for women. And then, interestingly enough, a whole other set of love lies that the men receive. Those are still somewhat in the vault. Shared some in mentality, but I didn't expect to, receive 25 love lies that men receive. So today is about sharing with you some of those critical, what I call pillar love lies. Not all 25 would be here for the whole weekend. But after being given those love lies and seeing what they were, I was so shocked, given that I was an independent woman, had had my business for a good 15 years at that point, that I was infected with the love lies. It was very hard for me to acknowledge that. I'm the coach, I'm the speaker, I'm the author, and I was infected. And over the next several weeks, I just kept seeing evidence in my behavior, my thinking, my communication of the love lies. I was like, oh my gosh. And so after receiving those downloads, there was also exercises and steps that I was instructed to go through. And so many of those exercises are actually in my book, so I didn't leave those out. I put in what I had to go through as part of my growing up process and my coming out of girl into woman process. So we have a few of those exercises that we have time to do today, but I just want you to know it was a multi-month process, so we'll just do a couple today. But sure enough, as I started to transform, and when I say transform, I don't just mean act differently. I mean that the beliefs that were part of my identity started to be shifted. So my inner form was changing, and then out here, I saw transformation. Did you get the sequence? And other people started to respond to me differently, namely my husband. So I didn't go and say, oh my gosh, I had this revelation. I'm about to enter in this process, and I just want to let you know. I didn't say anything. I said, I'm going to do the work. And it seemed that someone had sent him a memo to say, you now get to start changing. Because it was like, wait, what? But it was a response to my transformation that was happening. So one of the myths that we are fed in this culture is that to bring about change in a relationship, you both have to consent. You both have to want to save it. You both. And I got to see how when you understand relationships also from a spiritual aspect, it takes one person willing, keyword, to be the agent of transformation. In this particular case, it was me. And over a period of months, not only did our relationship become restored, and healing happen, and growing up happen, and detoxing of these love lies happen, and putting in the love truths in their place. But my marriage, as I was told, became better than ever. And it was already pretty good before the meltdown and breakdown. Actually, better than average by far. But I wasn't interested in just good. I wanted great. I wanted juicy. I wanted full self-expression. And so that is my journey behind the scenes. And after moving through that, I then said, okay, I'm going to start sharing with other women and see if what I share is the same old, or if it's like, girl, this is something outside of what I've heard before. So I called 8 friends together in my living room. I said, I'm ready to go public. And I said, I want you all to tear this apart at the end of the day. Because if it isn't fresh, if it isn't mind-blowing, if you don't look and feel differently, then I am not going to take it outside this living room. And at the end of those 7 hours, they were like, we want more. We want more. I said, so is that a thumbs up, green light? They're like, yes. So that was the pilot. And a few months later, they went and told their friends. A few months later, the 8 became 16. Then some of those 16 started calling their friends in other states that had done other courses with me. Brittany has this relationship course. And then I got calls from California. We want you to bring it to California. Well, I never thought in my own vision that it would go beyond my living room, actually, or in my state. So I immediately had to think of how do I take this to another state, not just, right down the hall and in my living room. And went to California, and at the end of the 7 hours, they said, we want more, and we want you back in 2 months. I said, to do what? They go, you got to come up with an advanced course. I said, I don't even have a curriculum. Well, you got 2 months. We'll be right back here looking at you, and we trust that whatever you come back with is going to be as yummy as this was. So 2 months later, came back, showing up, there they all were looking at me, and designed an awesome course that included a live, real-time healing and forgiveness process for all the women present, which most women had never participated in. Talk about forgiveness, told we should forgive, but didn't understand how to do it with all the comprehensive parts that really begin to set you free at the end. And so then I started getting other calls. We heard from California. So then I started traveling to Denver. Then I started going to Atlanta. Then I started going to D.C. and then looked up, and for 4 years, I was delivering Love Academy all over the United States.